The morning of October 1st, 2024, dawned like any other in Israel, with the sun rising over the serene landscapes of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. But the illusion of normalcy was shattered as sirens wailed, sending chills down the spines of citizens who scrambled for cover, their hearts pounding with fear and uncertainty. Iran, in a brazen and calculated act of aggression, unleashed a barrage of over 180 missiles, targeting the heart of the Jewish state, aiming to cripple its defenses and instill widespread panic. The sky, once clear and blue, was now a canvas of fiery streaks, each one a harbinger of death and destruction, painting a grim picture of the unfolding chaos. The missile attacks, originating from Iranian territory, marked a significant escalation in the long-standing conflict between the two nations, a conflict rooted in deep-seated animosities and historical grievances. While initial reports indicated a limited number of casualties, the psychological impact of the attack was profound, leaving an indelible mark on the collective consciousness of the Israeli people. Israel, a nation forged in the fires of conflict, found itself facing a new and terrifying reality, one that tested its resilience and resolve. The Iranian missile attack was not merely an assault on Israeli soil, it was an attack on the very psyche of the nation, shaking the foundations of its sense of security. The audacity of the attack sent shockwaves throughout the world, prompting international condemnation and calls for restraint. International news channels were dominated by images of smoke billowing from buildings in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, scenes reminiscent of past conflicts but with a new, terrifying intensity. The world watched with bated breath, wondering if this was the beginning of a wider, more devastating conflict in the already volatile Middle East, a region perpetually on the brink of war. The attack served as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the ever-present threat of violence in a region riven by historical grievances and geopolitical rivalries, highlighting the urgent need for diplomatic solutions and lasting peace. The Iranian missile attack was not a spontaneous act of aggression. It was a carefully planned and executed operation designed to achieve specific strategic objectives, reflecting a deep understanding of military strategy and geopolitical maneuvering. The sheer scale of the attack, involving a complex logistical operation to launch over 180 missiles, pointed to months of preparation and meticulous planning on the part of the Iranian military establishment. This level of coordination and execution underscored Iran's commitment to its strategic goals. Iran's motives for the attack were multifaceted and deeply rooted in the historical animosity between the two nations. The long-standing enmity has been fueled by decades of political, religious, and territorial disputes, making the attack a continuation of a protracted conflict. The attack was partly driven by Iran's desire to project power and assert its dominance in the region. By demonstrating its military prowess, Iran sought to reinforce its position as a formidable force in the Middle East. By striking at the heart of Israel, Iran aimed to showcase its military capabilities and send a message of defiance to its adversaries, both in the region and beyond. This bold move was intended to signal Iran's readiness to confront any threats head-on. Furthermore, the attack served Iran's strategic interests by diverting Israeli military resources away from its proxies in Lebanon and Syria. This redirection of focus allowed Iran to alleviate some of the pressure on its allies and maintain a balance of power in the region. By opening up a new front in the conflict, Iran aimed to ease pressure on its allies, particularly Hezbollah, which had been engaged in a series of skirmishes with Israeli forces in southern Lebanon. This move was a calculated effort to support its regional partners. The attack also provided Iran with an opportunity to test the resolve of the new Israeli government and gauge the international community's response to a direct Iranian attack on Israel. This was a critical moment for Iran to assess its adversaries' reactions and plan future strategies accordingly. The timing of the attack, coinciding with heightened tensions in the region and a period of political transition in Israel, was not coincidental. Iran's leaders chose this moment to maximize the impact of their actions and exploit the vulnerabilities of their opponents. The recent missile attack is the latest chapter in a long and bitter history of animosity between Iran and Israel. The roots of the conflict can be traced back to the 1979 Iranian Revolution, which brought to power a vehemently anti-Israel regime led by Ayatollah Khomeini. Khomeini's revolutionary ideology, based on a fundamentalist interpretation of Islam, viewed Israel as an illegitimate entity and a cancer that must be eradicated. The overthrow of the Shah, a close ally of Israel, and his replacement with an Islamic republic fundamentally altered the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. Iran, under its new leadership, actively supported Palestinian militant groups opposed to Israel, providing them with financial assistance, military training, and weapons. Over the decades, the conflict between Iran and Israel has manifested itself in various forms, ranging from proxy wars fought through surrogates to covert operations and targeted assassinations. Iran's support for Hezbollah, a powerful Shia militia in Lebanon, has been a particular source of tension with Israel. The Iranian nuclear program, which Israel views as an existential threat, has further exacerbated tensions between the two nations. Israel has repeatedly threatened to take military action to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, while Iran has vowed to retaliate forcefully against any Israeli attack. Section 4. Israel retaliates. A nation under fire responds. Israel, its citizens still reeling from the shock of the Iranian missile attack, responded swiftly and decisively. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in a televised address to the nation, vowed to retaliate with full force against those responsible for the act of war. The Israeli Defense Forces, renowned for their military prowess, were immediately mobilized, and retaliatory strikes were launched against targets in Iran. The IDF, utilizing its advanced air power and guided missile systems, targeted Iranian military installations, weapons depots, and Revolutionary Guard Corps bases. The strikes were intended to degrade Iran's military capabilities and deter further aggression. Israel also deployed its Iron Dome missile defense system to intercept incoming Iranian missiles, minimizing casualties and damage. The Israeli response was not limited to military action. Israel also launched a diplomatic offensive, reaching out to its allies in the international community to condemn Iran's actions and rally support for its right to self-defense. The Israeli government provided evidence to international bodies, including the United Nations Security Council, demonstrating Iran's culpability in the missile attack. Section 5. The world reacts. Condemnation and calls for restraint. The international community reacted with a mixture of condemnation and concern to the Iranian missile attack on Israel, highlighting the gravity of the situation and the potential for further escalation. The United States, Israel's closest ally, condemned the attack in the strongest possible terms, calling it a reckless and dangerous escalation. The U.S. reaffirmed its unwavering support for Israel's right to defend itself, emphasizing the importance of maintaining regional stability. The European Union, while expressing solidarity with Israel, also urged restraint and called for a de-escalation of tensions. EU leaders stressed the importance of dialogue and diplomacy in resolving the conflict. The EU emphasized the need for a diplomatic solution to the crisis and urged all parties to exercise restraint and avoid further actions that could lead to a wider conflict. They highlighted the potential humanitarian impact of continued hostilities. Russia, which has close ties with both Iran and Israel, called for a de-escalation of tensions and urged all parties to exercise restraint. Russian officials emphasized the importance of maintaining regional peace and stability. China, a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, also expressed concern over the escalation of violence and called for dialogue and a peaceful resolution to the conflict. Chinese representatives underscored the need for international cooperation in addressing the crisis. The Arab world was divided in its response to the attack, reflecting the complex political dynamics of the region. While some Arab states, particularly those aligned with Saudi Arabia, condemned Iran's actions, others were more muted in their criticism, reflecting differing political alliances and interests. The Palestinian Authority, while condemning the violence, also criticized Israel's response, calling for an end to the occupation of Palestinian territories. They urged the international community to address the root causes of the conflict and work towards a lasting peace.